Good morning, and welcome to a new episode of Life on the Research Trail. I'm Ron Coddington, the editor and publisher of Military Images magazine, documenting my travels on the research trail. And this morning's trip took me down to Atlanta, Georgia, during the Civil War time period. I spent the entire time writing a review of the book, and you can see the cover pictured here. It's the Atlanta Daily Intelligencer, covers the Civil War. The authors are Stephen Davis and Bill Hendrick. And these two authors bring together a really powerful combination. Stephen Davis has a long time connection to writing and authoring books about Atlanta during the Civil War, the battle, and the campaign. Bill Hendrick is a longtime reporter, has spent most of his career with the Atlanta Journal and Constitution. So he brings a practical knowledge of newspapers and reporting and the dynamics of newsrooms into play. So together, they've put out this 560-page book by the University of Tennessee Press. I've got a copy right here, handsomely done, a good, thick, heavy hardcover volume. Together, Davis and Hendrick get at three major themes. First, how the paper covered the war based on the news that it received. They take a look at the factual accuracy of that reporting, and of course, explore the editorials of this very pro-Confederate and pro-Southern newspaper, which is representative of the press during this period. So I really appreciate the fact that they let the newspaper really do the talking. They put the newspaper first and forward. If you look at the table of contents, which I especially like, it's a little bit of that, picks up some of that 19th century sensibility where it details each chapter and gives you some tidbits about what's inside each chapter. So you get the ability to get a brief overview of each chapter. As mentioned, chronological order, you get a sense of what the news was, what news was important to the editors. You get a sense of how they interacted with the public, how they shaped public opinion through the editorials. There's still, to me, there's still a sense of urgency and a sense of uncertainty that ripples throughout this volume. Because the Daily Intelligencer, like so many newspapers of that period, they produced one or sometimes several editions each day. But it's really a snapshot of what was happening in that moment. And these individual reporters and editors are looking at other newspapers. They're getting eyewitness accounts from local citizens who were off at war or someplace else. They're getting official reports, and together they are truly telling it's the first draft of history. And so you get that real sense of that rawness of the period as events are unfolding and no one exactly knows where it's going. But there's a patriotism, there's a nationalism, there's an intensity of emotion that's ruling the day. Of course, all of this is against the backdrop of a highly polarized society, against the backdrop of this devastating war that is resulting in an unprecedented amount of death and destruction. And in fact, the Daily Intelligencer is no stranger to this because the war comes literally to its front door with the Atlanta campaign and the Battle of Atlanta in July of 1864, which prompts the newspaper to relocate. They leave the city. They continue publishing between July until they return in November of 1864. So I think this is a really good read. And I should also say, as a qualifier, I know Bill Hendrick, and I've met Stephen Davis on numerous occasions. Bill and I worked together. I started my career at the Atlanta Journal and Constitution, and Bill was a business editor at that time. So I do want to say that as a qualifier. But I think it's a really great book. I highly recommend a read if you are interested in the Southern perspective on the war in a very visceral way. If you're interested in how newspapers operated during that time period, I think the Daily Intelligencer is representative of the press during the Civil War. So I highly recommend a read. And with the holidays coming up, it might make a good gift for a friend. So kudos to Steve and Bill for their achievements. Kudos to the University of Tennessee Press for pushing forward this idea and realizing the book through its publication. So there it is. So today's video. I wish you happy trails until the next time. Take care.